has the tools it needs to beat the Daria deck. And it looks like he is still taking out the Daria deck. That's just too scary. I can't fault him for that.
Yeah.
Daria is just a crazy deck, so not playing it.
Well, on ShadowShadet's side, ZEROFYNE said, I don't want to deal with Summit Temple. I'd rather deal with Daria and Neutral Forest.
And here's something I want to talk to you guys about real quick about that type of a ban. How many times have we seen Shadowcraft banned out over the course of the last 2 days so far?
A 0.
0 times.
A ZEROFYNE.
A new, yeah, that's right. New Havencraft list comes to the party, gets banned out over Daria. This is something I want to talk to you guys about because in competitive play, yes, Shadowcraft might be one of those decks that's just like, okay, this is like tried, true, safe, and reliable. That's not how you win tournaments. You don't win it with safe and reliable decks. You win it with decks that people are scared of, and they will ban out.
All right, well, we'll see if that comes around to bite ZEROFYNE. He is currently the top performing player. And a lot of it will come down to hand. So far, no ramp to be seen. Has to commit a Scyther in the early game. Oh, wow. Just the immediate removal. ShadowShadet maybe wants to play the aggressive plan here.
That's right. ShadowShadet has to, because if he doesn't, and it gets a little bit too late, and those tilting at windmills comes down, it gets really rough.
Yeah, every turn after that, it's just more and more difficult.
That's right. And ZEROFYNE was playing 3 tiltings, and it's showing here. He's got multiples in hand already, so he's ready to get to his end game. He has the fervor to speed up into the tilting at windmills, and he's got some Saha Quills for some early damage. All he needs is the top end.
And he's got the Oracle to further help him boost up. Now, what do you think, in terms of tempo loss against Neutral Forest, do you feel like the Fervor is risky in that sense?
Not at all. I think the main plan for ZEROFYNE right now against the Neutral Forest deck, because Neutral Forest is somewhat slow, get the tilting down as soon as possible, end the game as soon as possible. Because once you get to the late game, Neutral Forest has more threats than you do. So you can't let it, you know, go overboard into the late game here.
Yep. ShadowShadet knows it, is going to play the largest follower he can to make sure that tilting on 7 is not a possibility. And ZEROFYNE takes the bait. He says, okay, fine. Let's not play the tilting. Let's go with the Sybil. It's going to further ramp plus the Oracle. It means that he's just going to be at 10 now. And now he can do things like tilting plus Scyther or Phoenix.
That is the best way to actually set it up, period, is the Scyther alongside of it. Now, of course, Scyther is one of the Dragoncraft cards that you almost want to keep in your hand for the Queen of the Dread Sea combo, because it is the Dragoncraft follower that can deal damage outside of your neutral followers.
Oh, wow. Hector can't actually be activated. 2 Aarons, 2 Jungle Wardens, 1 Carrot, 1 Bahamut, so only 2 neutrals in hand, not counting Hector. So that would have been really nice. I mean, being able to remove the Sybil and then just swing face for 4 would have been a great turn.
Yep, he's going to play the Jungle Warden here, probably evolve it. Got to get over the Sybil.
Yeah, don't want that Sybil to last because it can not only continue to protect the tilting at windmills turn, but give more healing to ZEROFYNE, and every point matters.
Now this turn is, oh, man, these Blazing Breaths coming right off the top are really nice too. This will help clear the board, make the way for the tilting at windmills if ZEROFYNE wants to play it right now.
Oh, Conflagration goes first.
Playing safe.
Yeah, very interesting. Less evolution orbs on the side of ShadowShadet too, so I mean eventually the board is going to get weaker and weaker for ShadowShadet.
I'm fearful for ZEROFYNE because you know what? One thing he's probably not playing his tilting yet because he doesn't really have anything to do with it. But the longer and longer it takes him to put it down, the harder and harder it's going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much kind of polarizing in that sense where if you have tilting down, then your turns get progressively better and better. But if you don't have tilting down, then there's more of an opportunity for your opponent to set up something big that it's going to be very hard for you to push past. Bahamut now in hand, going to be immediately dropped.
Interesting. So not wanting to get used out of the tilting here, maybe just a little too afraid of leaving any followers in play.
Now, doing this play means that ZEROFYNE is leaning into his ramp advantage, right? He still has that. He ramped actually really quickly right after those last few turns just because of his Draconic Fervor into the Sybil Oracle. I mean, ShadowShadet's still on 8 play points, so this is still quite a powerful Bahamut.
That's right. It's very interesting that he chose to pre-evolve here as well. I don't think that Aaron by itself could have taken out a 9/9, so I'm not sure why the pre-evo here. Interesting choice, though.
Yeah, and with no evolution orbs, beating the beast is not an option. Sahakwill Israfil would still take it out.
Oh, you know what?
That's
the
it
combo.
goes over it. Yeah,
that's the combo. Okay,
it.
we found it. We found it. Good job, Rainey.
One defense left.
Yeah. We've got some brains.
Not on my side.
Hey man, you figured this puzzle out. We're good.
All right. Aaron without the evolve is the answer. That gives the opportunity to just drop the tilting.
Yep. Scyther going to come out. 11 damage
this is
to
gonna
face.
be tough. Oh no, the laser. Oh man, it's been a while since we've seen that.
It's so satisfying.
The last time we saw a Bahamut attack, I'm pretty sure it was full mooned.
Yeah. And that laser is way cooler there because it attacks way more times.
Yeah. Yep. Only one more opportunity. Still not at 10 play points. What is the answer to the Bahamut here? Still a clean 11, and you're facing the same problem.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you want to play the Aaron here, but you're just like, he's got a tilting at windmills out.
Yeah.
It's rough either way.
If you play the Happy Pig, you lose the enhance effect on the Aaron.
Yeah, there's not a good option here. Not a good option at all. And with the Blazing Breaths and the Saha Quill package that is in the hand of ZEROFYNE, he's got plenty of ways to basically just fight through any ward that SHADOWSHADET can play.
Yeah, even if you play out the Jungle Warden, it's totally believable that there's more than enough. And I think there is. Two Blazing Breaths plus a Saha Quill is already enough. Yeah,
plus the Saha Quill can go face, and the other one, it's ridiculous. Tilting at windmills is absurd. Again, I question the sanity of our North American players not playing this at all in their lineups yesterday because of how potent it is.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like a losing situation. SHADOWSHADET trying to figure out any way possible to get past this.
Doing the math, any attacks that are possible. Maybe he's just thinking about flooding the board and making so the Bahamut can't go face.
Yeah, he's gonna. The big thing here is the Blazing Breaths are gonna be so efficient at taking out these two defense followers. Heals up 3. He's gonna put him out of lethal range of the Bahamut, but
it's not good enough. We already know Saha Quill can go face. Bahamut's gonna be able to go face this turn on the back of 2 Blazing Breaths.
2 Blazing Breaths plus the Saha Quill. Oh man, I haven't seen this before.
Yeah. Just absurdity.
Up. Nice.
Oh, come on.
Yep. That's it. Has to tap out, and Tilting takes its first win real quick. So SHADOWSHADET has to fight back against ZEROFYNE's mid-shadow, which is one of the matchups that we pinned.
And here's the crux of the lineup. You have Daria. You have Tilting at Windmills Dragon. You have these 2 super strong decks. And then you have mid-shadow. In our estimations so far over the course of the last 2 days and previous weeks, we still think, I believe as a unit, me and you, that it is still just a 50-50 deck against the field.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean it's bad, it just doesn't mean it's scary.
I think it's interesting because on the one hand, you know, it is kind of a way to put it where it's very difficult for you to purposefully break through mid-shadow. I think Havencraft might be one of the few ways.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't purposefully win you matchups necessarily.
Right. It's not like one of those decks where you're just like, all right, I've got mid-shadow versus this matchup, I'm winning it. It doesn't ever really feel that way.
And this is always discussed when we talk about Conquest format, but having particular edges is always better than just being well-rounded necessarily. As long as those edges exist, right? If you know that there's a deck that can be very polarizing, that's why we see things like Control Blood do so well, I feel like.
Because it's got terrible matchups, but it has amazing matchups too.
Yeah,
exactly.
When you bring them into the right scenario, maybe one of their decks does well against Control Blood, but when it comes to their last deck, they just cannot beat a triple heavy control lineup.
Right.
It's like, well, there's no world where you win this with your aggro deck, right?
That's all
you
it
have
is.
to have combo.
That's all it is. And what's funny is SHADOWSHADET has 2 decks. He's got Neutral Forests without the White Wolf package, which I think makes it a little bit better against Shadowcraft because it's just got a lot more of that endgame punch versus a mid-range deck. And then he's got the Daria deck to fall back on to win with as well, which I think both of these decks have a very good chance to beat Shadowcraft. So it's all up to this for ZEROFYNE to get his first win out of the way.
Yeah. For SHADOWSHADET, I think a lot of it is going to come from the early game Elf Twin Assaults, the kind of mid-game Aarons, and then Saha Isserfils. How many times can you do that? And then Bahamut to close things out.
That's right. And then all of a sudden, this random Beauty and the Beast could show up at the right time that it just can't be destroyed, and then that also takes over the game.
Yeah. For ZEROFYNE, I think it's looking nice in the early game that he has multiple Catacombs, he has Andrew Alphas, so that's kind of nice. But I think one of the things that's going to be pressing for him is as you use these catacombs, they're going to be less available in the late game, which is really when things get dangerous, right?
Yep.
We can already see 2 Israfil, 2 Sahagwil in ShadowShadet's hands, so if it gets to that 7 play point territory, I think things are going to go south for ZEROFYNE, especially if he commences both his catacombs early.
Yep. That's absolutely correct. And realistically, he doesn't have a ton of options. Next turn, he's got Skull Ring into Andriolphus if he wants that route. He also has Necro Assassin as a plan. I mean, realistically, he's got a ton of options here. I always want to opt for the Andriolphus, especially with the cards that we see in hand for ZEROFYNE. He doesn't have any of his Ektars yet, doesn't have any of his endgame spells that he would like.
We'll see if that's a choice.
This is a perfect turn for it, too.
Yeah, still doesn't need extra stats from a different card. Andriolphus, with its weaker evolved stats, will still be able to trade out against this board.
And survive against the Carrot here. 1-1 goes into the 4-1. I'd probably play out the Bellinus just for more card draw options, even though Skull Ring would produce more bodies. Oh, Necro Assassin. Interesting.
It's playing at a slightly quicker tempo than what we are imagining.
Not only that, but he didn't get the perfect trade. He could have traded the 1-1 first, played the Necro Assassin, and then cleared the board. And now he's got to make an awkward choice of evolving over this Carrot here.
Interesting. Yeah.
You see?
Did he just want to go 1 to the face?
It could be a tempo-oriented play. Maybe he's just trying to deal as much damage as he possibly can before this Sahagwil combo comes down. He's just like, you know what? I'm going to have a 4-4. I'm going to have a 3-3. I just want to push.
I can see it. I mean, on this next turn, depending on how much of this board survives, you can set up a Catacomb, and you swing face with as much as you can. You get a bunch of skeletons, and maybe you Ector. I don't know.
Yeah, this is definitely a different route than we've seen most of our Shadowcraft players play. This is the offensive route. I think we only saw 1 game yesterday out of all the Shadowcraft games.
Yeah.
But ShadowShadet with the Elf Twins Assault on the perfect turn to shut that entire plan down.
And that's exactly the stages that we mentioned, right? For ShadowShadet, Elf Twin Assault is going to be a key card early on. And the Sahagwil Israfil is coming up here.
And now
then
with
it's
this,
just whatever he can get at 10.
Yeah, with this backwards order, not only does he not have the Necro Assassin now for a bigger follower, this Andriolphus came down a little bit later, not getting as much value as he would have last turn.
Would have been a lot of followers with that last word effect.
And now we're just going to see a chain of Israfil Sahagwil combos.
So cruel.
Yeah.
And I think that might be enough to kind of shut ZEROFYNE down from dealing that last 6 points of damage that he needs to deal.
Without cards in hand as well, there's not really a world where, I mean, you could totally just drop an Israfil down, right?
Well, that Lurching Corpse Draw and Necro Assassin, very good off the top, and Ektar, so getting a lot of the options he needs here.
Okay. Skull Ring is available to Zombie Party to fill out the board, but how do you deal with this Sahagwil?
Right. It's a little awkward. Maybe he does just plant down Ektar here. He does know that a Sahagwil's already gone, and of course, you got to be thinking they can't have it all, right? But sometimes they do. ShadowShadet does in this case.
Yeah. He's just going to have to go through with this plan, which means that neither of these cards are actually going to survive, and the fact that he couldn't play the Lurching Corpse with it, too.
Yeah. These turns are just a little bit out of order as for where he wanted them, and I think it all started with that early tempo play.
Okay.
So sorrowful.
And for ShadowShadet, really, it's just turn after turn. I think the options are quite obvious to himself,
And
right?
he has the third Sahagwil sitting over there. This is kind of goofy.
Yeah, I don't know. Even if you were to Lurching Corpse, the Israfil is a little bit protected.
Yeah. Well, to be fair also, ShadowShadet doesn't have a way to end the game yet. Yes, he has big followers.
He does have the Jungle
He
Ward.
does have Jungle Ward.
But that's not... He hasn't done a lot of health damage, right? So the Jungle Ward is not going to end it next turn.
What are you hiding inside?
Next 2 turns. Okay, Lurching Corpse is down. And the Catacomb. But we already know, I mean, 3 cards in hand, ShadowShadet has to be thinking it can't be that scary, right?
Right. And honestly speaking, he's got a perfect play here. You can Happy Pig and do another Sahagwil combo and kind of hope that he side skirts the Lurching Corpse.
I think it's fine. You have a second Israfil.
Yeah.
I think you're totally okay with that.
Fighting is so cruel.
Oh, interesting. I guess you could still play the Happy Pig here.
He should play it before he attacks with that Israfil. There he goes.
Oh, it's a carrot. Okay.
Carrot works too.
Oh,
every time! Every time! The business. Actually,
Technically, it
in
keeps
this
more on
scenario,
board.
it's actually good
Yeah.
that it happened. This
It
is the
keeps
first
more on
time.
board.
Yeah,
Yep. And you still have an Israfil anyways.
that's right. That's
But
crazy.
wow,
though.
landing into the Ector on the top deck as well. This is pretty much the situation that ZEROFYNE could have probably hoped for the most.
Well, he does have a great Ektar turn. I mean, he's got the zombie party plus the Ektar. He can clear this entire board.
He wants to get the 2 zombies, I suppose.
Okay, yeah, any which way he does this is okay.
Okay. Catacombs are gone now, and that's what we talked about, right? When you use them early, they do not have presence in the late game, and that's when things like Bahamut come down and you need some kind of response. So the second Lurching Corpse is another one of those resources just being thrown to the wind. We'll see. The Bahamut shows up.
I really, really like the Jungle Warden play this turn just to set up for a possible lethal if he top decks another one. And then he's got the Bahamut to fall back on because that Lurching Corpse is definitely going to be used on the Jungle Warden tokens here.
No more Sahak wheels, though, so there's no way to get that extra 2 damage and have the Jungle Warden just end it. Okay, Aaron's going to give him an Evolution Orb, so the Jungle Warden is just lethal here on the next turn.
That's right. So just saving up for next turn, definitely a good plan. Yeah, ZEROFYNE's not going to be able to close it out this turn.
I actually like setting up the Aaron because it gives you multiple pathways, right? Either the Jungle Warden just on its own to do 8 and then the Evolve Israfil. The Evolve Israfil can also come first to clear out the board and make you safe, and then the Jungle Warden at the end to close it out.
That's right. SHADOWSHADET, very heads-up play there with the Aaron. Yeah, ZEROFYNE going to do his little math in his head. See, all right, what can I do here?
I don't know if there's if you don't have healing or ward, as mid-shadowed lists nowadays definitely skimp on, I think it's just over.
I am going to write something after this entire final series is over about Shadowcraft and why I hate it. And if you are playing it, if you're not playing Saracen Dark Blade Fiend, I don't understand who you are. Because it's exactly that. Like, you're playing this really long game deck that has no outs to anything. You have no heal, you have no wards. Like, what can you stop?
Yeah.
This is the question I've got to ask everybody playing these Shadowcraft decks.
Here it is. Jungle Warden on the Enhance effect gives you 2 of them, and they both have Storm. With that, the 6 plus the 4 equals the 10. And SHADOWSHADET will take the first win back, turning the series into 1-1.
That's right. He's in it. So SHADOWSHADET, one of my favorite players to see on camera because he's got such a colorful background.
Yeah.
And he's always in it. Every time he wins, he's like, "Ugh, yes."
I like, so we should, one time when we're on the desk and we have SHADOWSHADET there, we should just leave our camera on him because sometimes he plays with the Rubik's cubes in the back. He's real fast at it.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right, I have to check this out. It's always impressive to me when people can solve Rubik's Cubes because they make no sense to me. I know
colors, puzzles.
Yeah,
it's
it's crazy. So I know there are like systems. I've seen these online because I was in high school once, believe it or not. And we had a lot of kids who would try to solve these things. You go online and it has like if the colors are in this way or that way, you just do this order. But you have to memorize every iteration of that.
Yeah.
And then just do it. And I'm just like, nope.
Yeah.
I have no idea. No idea.
Math solves Rubik's cubes.
Yeah. And then some kids do it blindfolded, and I'm just like, get out of here. Like, they look at the Rubik's Cube once, they blindfold themselves, and they just solve it, and I'm like, stop. Just stop.
But why?
Yeah. Good lord.
All right. Swing number 2 with mid-shadow.
That's right, and he's got to go up against Daria this time. SHADOWSHADET with no Daria just yet, but has plays to make in the early game here.
He's feeling hungry.
Feeling hungry, are we?
Yeah, Goblins probably get hungry. They do a lot of work. They work harder than most cards in Shadowverse.
That's true. Big thing to keep in mind here is Daria does not have a lot of quote-unquote rolls, right? You don't have a lot of opportunities to set up your curve. And currently, it's not looking great. You've got Enchanted Sword and 2 Blade Mages, which nothing really speaks card advantage. Nothing speaks Daria.
Right, and the problem with Blade Mages is in some matchups, those are the cards you want in your hand to start with. Against Shadowcraft, not so much. You want the Oglers because they have bigger stats to fight through the early swath of followers that Shadow produces. But SHADOWSHADET's going to have to work with what he's got.
Yeah, chooses to just pass the turn. I think that is a very important choice because once you start playing your options out, you kind of put yourself in this position that says, hey, I'm okay with the Daria not being a thing until turn 9 or turn 7. Very, very late.
He's got to make this choice right now. Does he want to play this Owl? Probably not the best of plays.
I don't think he should.
It's just like, it's that board presence. I guess he gets all of his board presence back next turn anyway. He can play the concentration along with the Magic Owl and possibly clear some of the board with a Blade Mage.
Prepare yourself.
Yeah, the Owl will be able to do it on this turn. Definitely want a concentration first.
Ooh,
And the piercing
that's
rune.
another option now. I don't know if there's a good piercing rune target here. I don't know if you want to piercing rune the Attendant at Night.
I think you should concentration. Hope to hit the Daria and have the Owl
Yep.
boost the Daria. That actually feels much better if you do that. Daria.
Ooh. Another piercing rune's not bad, but again, he's got no endgame plan at the moment.
And now he has to use this Owl boost into not Daria. Which again, this is a very short-term hand, right?
Yeah.
Once you play out the Blade Mages, you don't get card advantage off of that. The Blade Mages live and die real quick, right?
Well, the Enchanted Swords can make them a little bit, you know, beefier. It really just, he has to set them up perfectly. And I think turn 6 is a really good time to do that.
We'll see.
Because it's right before the Ektar can come down and clear the board, things like that.
You can pull a Lich off the Necro Assassin, right? So you can swing one face, Necro Assassin the Lich, preserve your Evolution Orbs, get a really wide board.
I like this plan, though. This essentially just says I'm going to go wide first, so then if you put down a full board, I can clear a bunch, and I have Necro Assassin possibly to clear, like, you know, the big Chimera or something that you played, or the Daria.
Oh my gosh.
Ouch.
There's just nothing. I still think you draw.
As long as he can do the Blade Mages and the Enchanted Swords this turn, that could be a possibility. My only thought
Piercing
process is the Piercing Runes, right, to catch back up on board. Because if he does this, again, he's put Shadow in this place where they've only got 3 cards left in their hand. It's not too worrisome. The problem is the early game from ZEROFYNE has put SHADOWSHADET all the way to 13 already.
Yeah. It's tough. This is tough. Piercing Rune would allow him to kind of clear the board and avoid any kind of Ektar problems. Okay. Belenus's effect does not take any kind of presence on the board.
Yeah, I like this plan. I think he's just going for full board clear here, which he should. Honestly, these Blade Mages might just go face because he needs the tempo as well, so it did as much as he could with the Piercing Runes, maybe just going to go all face with an Evo. Bullet for a bunch of damage here.
And this is really the commitment, right? It's gotten to the point where in SHADOWSHADET doing this, I mean, look at it. His hand has no future.
Right. I really like the push here. This is 10 damage to the face. He's got 1 in hand, which means he needs to find 5 more. Ooh, okay, he is going to trade with it.
Okay, yeah. I guess it makes the Necro Assassin not feel as bad.
Yeah, that's a big question mark to me because in my mind, I'm like, how does SHADOWSHADET do it now?
4/4. Oh, this is the exact scenario he liked. Which means that the Necro Assassin evolve can value, neither can the Lich evolve, so.
Let's make the world
Best case scenario, you know, you got a little tiny bit of
Yeah.
wind here.
We'll see if that continues. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. This can still work. You still have 2 spells, and you are at that 7 play point territory.
He should probably play as many things as he can.
Yep.
Yep, get the missile out of hand. This way you can set up for something like a magic missile to take down this Lich the next turn.
There's a last enchanted sword available in the deck as well. Probably going to get thrown away.
Oh, man, these plays, just all the good stuff from ZEROFYNE here. He doesn't have a lot of cards, but the cards he does have, very good.
Just investing, right? ZEROFYNE is putting more and more into this board, and eventually it's going to pay out by way of Ektar or Aisha. Yep, tosses the hand. Another Daria.
Yeah, he got some good options, but I don't think any of these are going
It's
to be
not gonna-
played
yeah.
this turn. So that is it. And SHADOWSHADET will move down ZEROFYNE.
That's Daria for you. Sometimes it just doesn't come through. And especially when you have... I mean, that was probably... Out of all the spell boost followers you could pick up at the start, Blade Mages are
Against Shadowcraft specifically, yeah. Yeah, if you're playing against Dragoncraft or, you know, a Havencraft deck or something like that, you just want to push damage as fast as you can, then you want to